Welcome to my vineyard ramble. Today I just felt that we needed some views. We needed to get out of Tucson and we needed to come into a different vineyard. And I just thought I'd bring you to my vineyard with the most breathtaking views ever. For me, it's a very nostalgic vineyard because this is where it all started. This is where Domaine Jones started back in 2009. So Domaine Jones started here in 2009, but I just let you take in that view and just point out a few viewpoints for you. So up here behind the tree you can see the castle. It's another Cathar castle, so it's not Château d'Aguila, it's the Château de Quéribus, because here we're actually in the Roussillon today. So we've crossed over the border. I'm about 20 minutes behind that castle of Quéribus. Is Tucson. So just behind there's a lovely village of Cucugnan. For those who have been down here, have a lovely windmill and the best bread in France, the best baguette ever. So that's Quéribus, Cucugnan behind there. Pan round, so the Mediterranean is down over here. You can just see in the background the Tocqueville Tower. So that's the Tocqueville Tower, and that's at about, from here it's probably about half an hour. Behind that Perpignan and the rest of the Roussillon. So I'm literally on the border here of Languedoc-Roussillon, but just in the Roussillon. Pan round here, you have the Agly Valley. It's just absolutely gorgeous this morning. And then behind this hill here, you have the village of Maury. So if you've been to this area, you may know the village of Maury. You may know the sweet wines of Maury, famous for its lovely VDN. That's just nestling down there here. But when we talk about terroir, you know, I've driven half an hour this morning in my Diane to get here, and you really do change the terroir. Now remember how pronounced terroir? It's like terre, a bit of paper, and then wah, terroir. So the terroir here is just completely different to the terroir in Tucson. Now terroir, it's not just about the soil, it's about the place, it's about that feeling of place. But let's look at the soil first. If I just look at, this would be a hunter's track here. So these tracks are actually made by the hunters to go and shoot those pesky wild boars. So look at this, it's a schist. So the name is schist, and it's basically like a crumbly slate. And the whole of this valley is this schist or crumbly slate, and it's particularly good for vines. It gives the wines a lovely acidity. So that's the slate, the schist, the crumbly schist, so completely different. We do have bits of this in Tucson, but not as much. Here in Maury, it's literally all schist. And then something else I just saw while I was just waiting for you to get your cups of tea. You see this, a plant that we haven't seen in Tucson. So this is the lavender, so wild lavender up here blowing in that lovely north wind. Just a word about the weather. It must be about 12 degrees, quite chilly, but it's a lovely north wind is blowing. So that's great to dry the vines. It means that the mildew won't spread today because it's not damp, and it's unlikely to rain because we've got that lovely north wind blowing. As I said though, do you remember these? Those of you who've been on the rambles, this is I think it's the immortelle, known as the curry plant because it just smells like curry. But you see, they're a different colour to Tucson. These are a paler yellow. So everything completely different, just half an hour down the road. Just one thing. I think it's about time I changed the competition. I think, you know, the emojis, it's really good fun, but I think it's time to have a different competition. So today, instead of doing the emoji competition, I'm going to ask you a question at the end, and it will be the first person to reply to the question. So the answer is going to be in the walk, in the ramble today, and then there'll be a question at the end, and the winner will be the first one to put the question on the screen to win those wild herbs. So I better get rambling because we've got quite a long way to walk. You see up here, you're probably going, I can hear Dad going, you haven't cut the grass yet. And that's true. But if I'm here today, it's because down there in the distance I've got three. I've got Gilles, Sebastian and Maxime, and they're strimming. They're cutting the grass. So I thought, great opportunity to get down here to show you them in action, strimming the vineyard. So we are cutting the grass. So I said that this was a really nostalgic vineyard, and it is. This is where it all started. This was thanks to Mum and Dad, who they said to me back in about 2008, they said, Katie, you know, do you think you could buy us a vineyard down in the south of France near you? And I thought, yeah, well, I'll go out. At the time I was working at the local wine cooperative in Touchon. And basically my parents sent me on a mission to find them the perfect vineyard for them to do a bit of gardening when they came down to see me in Touchon. And I searched high and low. I looked in the valley where we are in Touchon, and then I came over to Maury because I just absolutely love the style of wines that you can get from here. So whereas Mum and Dad were imagining that I was going to buy them, you know, a couple of rows of vines, we actually ended up with 2.5 hectares. So it's these 2.5 hectares here that I bought and that started Domaine Jones in 2009. So this was the very first vineyard, and it's Grenache. It's literally 80% Grenache. And I remember when I was buying it, Monsieur Borel, who I bought this vineyard off, who used to take it to the local cooperative, he told me it was all Grenache Noir, and it was only when I got to the lawyer's office to sign it that I looked at the paper and it said half of it was Grenache Gris. And at the time I was like, yeah, but I don't want Grenache Gris. So I almost walked out of that lawyer's office. And Monsieur Borel, who was selling it to me, said, don't worry, Katie. It doesn't matter, just pick it all together, mix it up, and you'll make that lovely Maury sweet wine. And I was like, I don't want to make the sweet wine. I like the sweet wine, but I want to make dry wines. So almost didn't buy it, but I'm so glad I did, because that Grenache Gris makes a superb wine. So just to show you here, now this is another of those words we've learnt how to pronounce. So it's Grenache. This is actually grey Grenache, but you have absolutely no way of telling. And you can see here that the bunch is a little bit thin. So there's some grapes missing on the bunch, and that's the couillure. So that's the poor fruit set. So during pollinization that didn't happen. The fruit set didn't work too well here. I have no idea. It's very difficult to know why it didn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can see on this bunch here, quite thin. So that's a classic example of couillure. Again, if you have any questions, please put them in the question box at the bottom. So, and here, if you compare it to a bunch that didn't be affected by the poor fruit set, you can see quite different. So that is one of the problems with the Grenache grape. It can suffer from couillure or very poor fruit set. So back to my nostalgic trip. So yeah, 2009 with my mum and dad, we bought the vineyard, and that same year I actually met lovely Jean-Marc. So in 1 year I acquired a vineyard, and I also acquired a husband, but not any husband, a husband that knew absolutely everything about vineyards. And so then it just seemed sort of automatic that we made our first wine from this vineyard here in Maury. So that was our first vintage. Domaine Jones' first vintage was from this vineyard in 2009. We started, as I said, 2.5 hectares here. It's mostly Grenache, and we just made 8,000 bottles of wine in that very first vintage. Let's take a closer look at the grapes. So you can see slightly in need of a grass cutting. Let's have a look, another bunch. You can see here the leaves slightly affected by the wind, and then that's another bunch just to show you the couillure, not quite as bad as the one we saw back there. And just take a walk down here. So I said it's 80% Grenache in this vineyard, and that's 80%. The rest, there's a little bit of Muscat mixed in, and that's for the wild boars, and we have some Carignan, some old vine Carignan as well. And I'm just going to walk down here to catch up with the guys. I'm going to keep my distance from them though. as they've got the streamers, but perhaps you can make them out a bit more clearly now in the distance. So we've got really a commando raid on this vineyard today. So we've got 3 people out, and that's going to take them probably it's going to take them probably 3 days to actually cut all of the grass here. That's because we're organic, and in this particular vineyard it's the only way, feel that wind, it's the only way that we can actually get rid of the grass. It's too steep to plough, so even Mignon, our little chenillard, wouldn't be able to get through here. Just look at these lovely flowers. Another idea I had today. So when I sign off today, the drive down here was just so absolutely gorgeous. I just wondered if any of you wanted to join me in the Diane for the trip back home after I finished this live. So what I was going to do was when we finish here, I just sign off and sign out of this, and then I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to press the button again on another live. So if anybody would like to join me in the Diane for the trip back home, it'll take about 20 minutes, but just get in the car with me. I won't be doing any talking because I'll be concentrating on the driving, but you can take in that wonderful scenery and just chat amongst yourselves, enjoy the scenery. And if you need to go, just sign out. But I thought that could be quite exciting today, to actually take you back to Tucson in the car. So yeah, I can see people thumbs up for that. Yes, please. Okay, Vivian, great to see you. So just come down here and I can answer your questions again. Look at the soil. It's just so different. And we talk about terroir and what is it? It's that sense of place. But Maury just feels different to Tucson. It's like it's in the air. It smells different. The people are different. It's very difficult to explain what terroir is, but you definitely get a sense of place when you come into this vineyard. So down here, they've also, can you see them? Up there streaming away. It's a little bit dark this morning, so I'm not going to get much closer. Just come in, I'll show you a lovely Grenache leaf. So as I said, this is where Domaine Jones started back in 2009, and today we have 15 small vineyards, really based on this one here, in that they're all old vines, or vieille vigne. We know how to say that too. So vieille vigne. So today, Domaine Jones, 14 little tiny plots, very similar to this one. So I'm just going to go and find a sheltered spot here in the garrigue. So I love this vineyard because it's just totally surrounded by garrigue. So I think it's maybe a little bit more sheltered. Just see, it's just lovely, it just grows naturally. Okay, let me have a quick look at your questions. So this is the basis. Why are we called Domaine Jones? So thanks, Adam, for that question. Why are we called Domaine Jones? Well, basically, when we bought this vineyard, as I said, I bought it with my mum and dad back in 2009, and we bought it, and I went to register it. Down in Perpignan, you have to register all vineyards that you buy. And I went to register it, and they said, okay, well, what's the name of your vineyard? And I had not thought about it at all. I had no idea. So I just went, well, Domaine Jones. And she looked at me and went, okay, and wrote it down. And I thought, oh, that's a bit of a silly name, Domaine Jones. I will change it at one stage. And then I never changed it. People sort of started to remember it, and it stuck. And that's why, completely by coincidence, really, or by chance, I just left the name Domaine Jones and never went to change it. And a question from Hugh: can you leave the grass as ground cover in the way you use the bark? Yes, you can. The only problem with leaving the grass, oh, it's a little friend, hello, you found me. Oh dear. The only problem with leaving the grass here, you can see, is that it's going to take the water. So in the summer, if you don't clear it, it will take that valuable water away from the vines. And also, it's quite difficult. We hand pick all of these vines, so it's pretty difficult to actually work in a vineyard like that if you've got grass like up to your waist. I've actually tucked my socks, it's a very attractive look this morning, just to prevent any ticks, as it's the tick season, probably a tick season in the UK too. But yeah, so we cut it down, just good vineyard management to keep the grass out of the vine so that we can walk in it. And I'll show you the difference actually, so you can see here. So we're coming up to town, so there's a nice little doggy. Oh, I think that's a, so I don't know what it is. It's a white dog. It belongs to Sebastian. Morning. He's coming with me on the ramble. So here you can see quite clearly this is where it's been cut. So you've still got the surface, because it's trimmed, it's still covering the surface. It's not as if we're ploughing, but it's very much easier than working in a vineyard that's like this. And you can see that, you know, the grass in some cases is really up, around and in the vines. So you don't want that. You need the sun to be able to ripen the grapes. I'll just backtrack into my little sheltered hollow here in the garrigue while I look at the other questions. But I've got the north wind full on there. I can feel it, but it's so refreshing. So a question here, from Lisa, how does Maury, dog's off, how does Maury compare to Banyuls and Riesat? It's very similar. Now I don't know all the technicalities about it because it's such a complicated appellation. The VDNs, there's hundreds of different types of VDN. Most of it is based on Grenache, whether that be in Banyuls or Maury or Riesat. So it's Grenache based. Pretty similar in style in that they're fortified, and you can also get white ones as well. Maury I think is just a red one, but as I say, it's a very complicated appellation. You can get young ones, they're classified by the colour as they get older, so you can get ombre, grenache, and you can get hordage. It's a very big, quite complicated classification of them, but similar in style, very similar in style. Just check for perhaps one last question. Happy birthday to Lisa. Congratulations, that's today, and apparently I've got your birthday off to a fantastic start. And a final question here from Joe, what did you do with the Grenache Gris in the first vintage? Yeah, like as I said, it was such a shock to find out that half of this vineyard was planted with Grenache Gris and it wasn't all Grenache Noir. So with that first Grenache Gris, even from the first vintage, we separated it out and we made 100% Grenache Gris wine and we made 100% Grenache Noir. We didn't take the advice of Monsieur Borel, who sold the vineyard to us, which was to mix it all up and to make a sweet wine. So we did dry wines, 100% Grenache Gris, and that is still the Grenache Gris Domaine Jones it's still in the range today. So 100% Grenache Gris from this vineyard, and it's a lovely mineral, sort of blossom floral style of wine. It's absolutely delicious, and I think you can. That sounds really silly, but you can almost taste this schist or this soil here, it's so minerally. And that really comes through on the wine. So there we go. I'm going to backtrack here a little bit more just to try and get out of the blustery wind. But I'd just like to say thank you very much. And here's the competition question for today. So first one to tell me, in which year did Domaine Jones start? First person to get the answer on the screen, in which year did Domaine Jones start or make its first vintage? So just wait, I can see you're practicing your terroir pronunciations, very good, and vieille vigne. So the first, no, Mark, 2006, that's not right, almost, but 2009, Lisa Places, congratulations. You have won a sachet of dried herbs, and if you direct message me your address, I'll get them sent off to you. So Lisa Places, that's fantastic. Also, very exciting, on Friday, you'll have the chance to win one of the tea towels too. So on Friday, I'll give you details of how you can win one of the tea towels too. So thanks very much for following me this morning from this amazing little vineyard. I'm just going to walk up here so you get a final look over the lovely Quéribus Cathar Castle. And I'm going to say, as I said, I'm going to sign off and then I'm going to get in the Diane, turn the video on again, the live, and if you want to follow me, just sit in the passenger seat with me. Not quite sure how it's going to work. As I say, I won't be talking, so you can just talk amongst yourselves and just enjoy the ride back home. But I'm going to leave you with this amazing view over the lovely Cathar Castle of Caribous. So thanks for joining me. Tomorrow, same time, different vine. Look forward to seeing you then. Thanks very much.